It is Friday, May 26th. Let's talk PlayStation. Alright, we got some news stories to discuss this week, especially because E3 is rapidly approaching and there's a lot of things relating to E3 that we're going to be talking about, so I guess we'll get into that right away. So Sony has already announced that, much like they've done the past, 3-4 years now, they will be doing the E3 Live Experience, movie theater experience, so your local movie theaters, you can check a list online. I don't think it's up right now, they'll have details shortly, but there'll be local movie theaters that will allow you to go for free, basically, to watch Sony's E3 press conference live. There's always goodies and stuff like that when you go, and it's a lot of fun, I hear. I don't know, I never actually have been to one, since I always watch it at home myself to do videos after, but that is going to be a thing this year once again. Moving on to things that we might see at E3, the voice actor for the protagonist in Days Gone, Sam Witwer, he is going to, well, he has said recently that basically Days Gone is going to be at E3 in a big way. That's kind of what he's saying, which kind of makes me think, all right, well, it's probably going to be on Sony's stage, you would assume. So I don't, I'm not, to what extent I'm not sure, whether it's a new trailer, whether it's a live demo. I would assume it's probably going to be a live demo, especially since the first time we actually saw Days Gone, we actually got a pretty nice extended gameplay clip of it. A lot of times there's certain ways that games get announced and sort of revealed over time, and when you see a game like Days Gone, first impression right away is a long cut scene, and then we actually see a bunch of footage of gameplay. Sometimes just like a little teaser, and then you wait 6 months for another teaser, then you wait 6 months for a cutscene footage, and then you wait another 6 months for gameplay. Like, we got gameplay right away at Days Gone, so I would assume we're gonna get more gameplay and maybe a live demo at E3. You would have to assume that it's going to be playable on the show floor, so that's great. That we'll get to see more of it, because it looks like the game is further along than we initially thought, and we were waiting for a long time to see what Sony Ben was finally working on. So I think it will be there in a big way. I believe him. Now, while it's not totally E3 specific, a German retailer has a listing for a God of War Collector's Edition, and this is slightly unusual considering it seems really early. Of course, the date that they have up, it's listed for like January something 2018. That's a placeholder date, obviously. I think it falls on a Monday. But it's like a €200 bundle, and apparently what it's listed as, it comes with a statue of Kratos and Atreus, a cloth map, and a bunch of like extra DLC or whatever. So the thing is, retailers will always have placeholder listings and stuff like that, but typically they don't have some bullshit listing like this. That basically means if this wasn't real, they'd have to like make all of that entirely up on their own accord. So this is obviously something that is probably going to happen, and it just seems weird to get that sort of leak or pre-release before we see everything else about God of War, because really we only got that one piece of footage and gameplay, and that's pretty much it. We don't know much else about the game other than the small updates that Cory Barlog feeds us on Twitter, so you have to also assume that at E3 we will see more God of War, and we will probably see that in a big way as well, considering that they already kind of have an idea for what they're going to be doing for a collector's edition. Seems like they might actually have a release date on the horizon that they will be able to confidently meet, so that's why they maybe have sort of early plans of what they want to do for boxed copies of the game. So that's slightly good news, I'd say. So now we got big news about the Uncharted movie. I told you guys I'd always give you updates about this. So we have an actor for Drake. It's Tom Holland, the guy that did like the recent Spider-Man, the younger looking kid. We found out that the story is now going to be sort of a prequel that's going to be focusing on, if you remember in Uncharted 3, there's that small, chapter, well, it's 1 or 2 chapters, where you play as a young Drake. And that kind of like sets the preludes for Drake's story and meeting Sully for the first time. So basically the entire movie is going to be that sort of section, a Drake sort of prequel story. So there you go. That's what you have right there. You can take that for what it is. My initial impression of that is I'm not feeling it. And the reason why I'm not feeling it is because while that was a great part of Uncharted 3, it was just that. It was a part of Uncharted 3, and Uncharted to me is Nathan Drake as an adult. So to have the Uncharted movie as this sort of, extended piece on what is, to me, one little part of Uncharted is kind of rubbing me the wrong way. I don't know. I mean, every time we hear about this Uncharted movie, I think of like, all right, this is going to be, you would assume, your typical Indiana Jones style flick with an adult male running around doing awesome action stuff, and that's what Uncharted is. So that's what I was expecting. So to have this is I get there's good ways to look at it. It doesn't feel Uncharted to me when you're going to spend the whole movie focusing on what was a little part of Uncharted. So, oh well, who even knows if it'll still happen. So I really want to talk about this one because I really appreciate the openness and transparency, and this is something that I love seeing, and I wish we'd see a lot more of it, and admittedly we do see a lot more of this nowadays, which is great. So anyway, this past week, the game director for Destiny 2, Luke Smith, kind of just flat out said Destiny 2 is not going to run at 60 frames per second in 4K on a PlayStation 4 Pro, and that's all he said. So the quotes are, "It will not run at 60 on the Pro. I don't want people to continue to hope. We're going to be matter-of-fact about that stuff. The PS4 Pro is super powerful, but it couldn't run our game at 60. Our game's this rich physics simulation with collision and players, networking, etc. It wouldn't run, not enough horsepower there yet." And he went on to say that basically the CPU was the bottleneck there in terms of the frame rate, but the game is going to be 4K on PlayStation 4 Pro, which is cool. I just like, see, it's you see a news story like this, and a lot of people go, "Oh, this is such, clickbait bullshit. Like, why does this need to be a news story?" Or this, that, and the other. It's a negative PlayStation article, so people get uppity and pissy about it or whatever, and it starts tons of fanboy bullshit or whatever. I like this kind of stuff because it's, like I said, it's transparent and it's forward. Think if like look back 10 years ago, say right in the heat of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, developers were not this open in sort of discussing their games and talking about the technical aspect of them and sort of explaining why things like this and that were happening. Very seldom that happened. A lot of developers just didn't want to sort of talk about those kind of things, and so I like when it just comes out, when somebody will just come out and say, like, this is going to be what it is on the system. Here's why it isn't going to work the way it works. And that's just the way it is. Also, they wouldn't talk about how the game was going to look on Scorpio, because you would probably assume that at this point the Scorpio version of Destiny 2 will probably for sure run 4K 60 frames per second, which is what Microsoft is heavily aiming for, is most of their games to run natively at 4K 60, because that's what they want to do with Scorpio. But they didn't comment on that, and you got to figure that's because the deal that Sony currently has with Bungie, so Bungie's not going to be talking about the Xbox version at all until, well, the game is practically out and the public can sort of test it and play with it themselves. I'm not necessarily sure how much leeway Bungie has in terms of discussing the other platforms, but I appreciate the openness. So recently Sony gave us some numbers that we don't often hear about from them, so these are always worth taking a look at. They discussed the monthly active user number on PlayStation Network, which is currently at 70 million. 70 million active monthly users on PSN. And then for PlayStation Plus subscriptions, we're at 26.4 million subscribers. This is actually, the last figure we heard was back in 2015, which is around a little over 20 million. So Sony's gaining subscribers, which I'm sure they're very happy with. They are trying to gain more, and they're kind of attributing that to their lineup over the years. And they're hoping that with PlayStation 4 sales that they'll be around 78 million units by the end of 2017, which is a lot. That's way more than my prediction. Like, the Plus subscriptions aren't really surprising to me, as more people buy PS4s, and the fact that Plus is required to play online, that's naturally going to go up. I think the one that just intrigues me is the monthly users. 70 million is a lot. I thought it would actually be lower than that. I'm not sure why I thought it would be lower than that. I mean, there's 80 million PS3s, then you got 50 some odd plus million PlayStation 4s. There's a small little bit of Vita in there. So those are all lumped together into that 70 million number. So surely that's a lot of units to have monthly users. But you would think most of those are PlayStation 4, but there's still a lot of people that use PlayStation 3, and that's what I always attribute to the saying that the PlayStation 3, I think, is going to last a little bit longer than most people think, at least in terms of its not necessarily hardware support. Because we're already discussing that what manufacturing for PlayStation 3 is ceasing in Japan, so not necessarily hardware manufacturing, but supporting PlayStation Network and just online connectivity for PS3. I think that's going to go a lot longer than most people think, because PS3 is that sort of first console for Sony that had that online ecosystem, so people still have tons of friends on there where they play just on PlayStation 3, and then there's still the vast PlayStation Store on PS3 where people have a bunch of downloaded content, and there's still a lot of games that you can only get on a PS3 and not a PS4, like the abundance of PS2 classics, the PS1 games on there, and of course the PlayStation 3 PSN games. Now, I'm sure they're trying to remedy this with PlayStation Now and PS4. But for the most part, people actually really enjoy having all that content on PS3, and it's just it's free online too. I'm sure there's a lot of people that still actually really enjoy that. I mean, think about like how long people played SOCOM on PlayStation 2. So I think PS3 is going to have a pretty healthy life for its online base. But yeah, 70 million, I don't know. I thought it was like, I feel like that's a lot, but I guess it makes sense. For our final news story, kind of some juicy rumor stuff going on here. VR Focus has a unnamed representative from Sony Santa Monica, and apparently at Sony Santa Monica they are working on a PlayStation VR title. Now, here's why this is awesome news if it were to be true, because the fact that Gorilla Cambridge went under sucks. But we just discussed that, you know. I mean, they did Riggs, and Riggs was a quality PlayStation VR game. That was a great game that worked well, and it showed that, you know, when you have a capable developer working on a VR game, you can get a good result, and that's what you need. You need good developers, and you need good games. It's a double-edged sword, because Sony has been pretty vocal in recent years. I know in the past they would sometimes put pressure on developers to use their peripherals, but in recent years they've been pretty open about the fact of saying, you know, when we talk to our developers, we kind of let them do their own thing, and we don't want to necessarily force them to work on something that they don't want to work on. So with PlayStation VR, it's that sort of same mindset. It's like, well, you know, Sony is the manufacturer of PlayStation VR, but if our developers don't want to do anything with it, we're not really going to, you know, shoehorn them into it. And that's why I thought, you know, okay, well, that's good, because, you know, Naughty Dog's not probably going to want to do a VR game. You know, their top developers probably shouldn't do a VR game, because Naughty Dog should work on their own, you know, project and have it released normally on the console. Same with somebody like Sony Santa Monica or Sucker Punch or even Sony Bend. But have a developer that is under your wing like Gorilla Cambridge, where people aren't always looking for their title necessarily, right? But people will play their games. Have them do a title, because they are still a great developer that can pump out a quality game, right? And so you kind of, and that's why you should have held on to them and maybe had them keep doing those virtual reality games, and let your other developers kind of do what they want to do, you know, unless they do want to willingly make a VR game, and that's probably not the case. But Sony Santa Monica is one of their biggest developers, and quite often they will work on multiple projects. And they'll have other studios come in and kind of live in that sort of same space and share each other's resources. Or most of the time it's Sony Santa Monica helping other smaller developers, but you know, it's a big place. So to have them work on a VR title is very intriguing. Like, and that's what the report is saying, is that this is a game that a lot of PlayStation fans are going to be thrilled with. So you know, there's a lot of ideas running through your mind as to what it could be. But I'm thoroughly excited. And I'm inclined to say that this is probably true. Sony Santa Monica always discusses VR. They are pretty open about it. They have worked on it previously in the past, and there's also the fact that early on God of War was prototyped with virtual reality. I don't think that this is going to be what it is. I don't think they would do something like that, but maybe they will. Maybe they will. But I think it's going to be something entirely new. Or maybe, well, if the rumor is that PlayStation fans will be excited about it, then maybe it is sort of an existing IP. I don't know, but I think I'm fairly confident that this is something in the pipeline for sure. The history is there, and I think they're excited about it. Those are just some of the news stories that I wanted to talk about with you guys this week. I did it, a review video. Finally! Oh god, it feels so good to finally get something like that out. I know it's super late. Like I said, I promised I was gonna do it, so I finally did it this time. It was a lot of fun to finally do another video like that again. But now some new filming will begin, so Wednesday videos should be back on schedule. Hopefully this coming Wednesday or the Wednesday after. But what's more important is E3. It is coming up very soon. I think there's still 2 LTPSs until Sony's E3. But we'll do some E3 predictions video. E3 predictions. I'll probably just lump that into Let's Talk PlayStation at the time, because sure enough, well, there's always a chance of rumors, but it seems like the past few years I remember E3 being pretty tight with news. Like not many slips were coming out until like the very last second, so it was never like in time for me to do it on Let's Talk PlayStation. But usually the news week will be very slow up until like 1 or 2 days before the conferences actually start. But we'll do some predictions. I actually already have a few ideas for what I think that Sony will do, and it's exciting times. I always get like super giddy with E3. It's an exciting time. And it's funny because we always get really excited, but the journalists and developers actually hate doing E3 because it's just like so much work and they're non-stop running around. But yeah, I'm here at home, so I'm excited. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys next Friday.